Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win here. We're back for another edition of Diablo 3. Yesterday we did Bone Spear Necromancer. Today we are going to cover a requested armor, that being Leapquake Barbarian. Leapquake Barbarian, what's the easiest way I can describe this armor? It's basically like if you take a 4-year-old and they have tantrums where they're stomping around and throwing things. It's pretty much what you're going to be doing with this set. So this is the Earth armor set. In particular, what's going to happen here is you get cooldown on Earthquake, Avalanche, and I believe as well as Ground Stomp. You also get a increased amount of damage to your Earthquakes and your Avalanche and your Ground Stomp, as well as your Ancient Spear if you decide to use it, and I believe Bash? No, not Bash. So pretty much you're going to be using on this set is Earthquake. You're going to be using Blades of Tribes and leaping around pretty much to do a lot of damage. So pretty much what you're going to do is you're going to leap around. Every time you do a leap, you're going to automatically cast Earthquake. Then, every time you let out a war cry or another one of your shouts, you are going to automatically start casting Avalanche. Everything else on this particular armor set is just here to help you out. This is pretty much what you're going to be looking for in setup. You're going to want a Wrath of the Berserk to get a lot of extra damage out of there, a Warcry, Earthquake, Molten Fury, because that does the most amount of damage you could possibly get. You're going to be using Ruthless, Brawler, Unforgiving, and Nerves of Steel. You can swap these out for some of the other things to keep the duration of Earthquake and Avalanche up longer. It doesn't really do too much for you. In the cube, you want the Furnace. You need Loop Boots, because Let Boots will allow you to cast your leaping around a lot more. And every time you leap, you cast the Earthquake, so keep that in mind. So this is not an augmented armor at all. There are no augmentations at all with any of the weapons or the slots, so we're going to play around and try to see if we can get some gems leveled up to then augment here. So this is not going to be one of those videos like I normally do where I'm doing greater of 70 and higher. I'm going to be doing 60, probably a 55, then back to a 60 if I see we're not doing too well, and then 65. Keep in mind, Leapquake Barbarians are not considered speed builds, so you're not going to run into things super fast. This is one of these builds that does a lot of push damage. So what you're going to do is usually you want to cast your Wrath of the Berserk. You're going to use your shouts to create avalanches, which are going to do a lot of damage. When you run into big areas of mobs, you're going to leap 3 times thanks to the Let Boots, and that will cause Earthquake. Basically, as you see on the ground is pretty much going to be burning most of the time. The fact that it's burning will allow you to do a significant amount of area of effect damage. So things to keep in mind when you're actually building this particular armor is that you probably want area of effect particularly high up there so that you can cover a lot more ground with your leap quakes and do a lot more things. You could, in theory, run a Mage Fist on this build. Then, however, you're going to have to fix your Kanai's Cube up to probably run a Ring of Royal Grandeur or a particular ring set. The one good thing here is you have a lot of options that you can particularly play around with in terms of Leapquake. One of the things that you definitely need to put on Leapquake, which is something that I'm working on at the moment, as I said, this is not optimized whatsoever. However, people have been asking me to cover it, so I decided I would cover it as a fun little experiment work in progress, is that Leapquake needs a lot of cooldown so that you can constantly be leaping around all over the place. In order to get more cooldown, there's 2 ways you could do it, really free when you think about it. One of the ways is you can put in particular armor slots that you have available, you can put some Flawless Royal Diamonds. This will give you a significant amount of cooldown reduction, allowing you to Leapquake around the screen at a faster or more efficient pace. Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac will reduce your cooldown by 1 particular second, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it actually adds up quite a bit. What you definitely can do to speed up the cooldown of everything, which is something I'm working on and currently a work in progress, is level up a Goak of Swiftness. When you level up Goak of Swiftness, every time you declare an attack, you get a stack, and for every stack that you have, you get a significant amount of cooldown reduction. And since this particular armor set is going to be attacking quite a bit frequently, it is worth your time to invest in a Goaka Swiftness because you might be able to get your windows of leaping around for Leapquake very, very, very small windows. So these are things that you definitely want to do on your own to try to optimize the build. You could probably fit in Whirlwind here if you wanted to, just to get a little bit more speed out of there. But Whirlwind is really not going to do any damage. All your damage is coming from your leaping, which allows you every time you leap to cause an earthquake. And a lot of your damage, ironically, is going to come from War Cry and Threatening Shout, because every time you cast both of those things, you automatically get Avalanche casted. So much so that you don't actually need to run Avalanche on here. You could, though, run Avalanche. You could take out the Ancient Spear in particular, or the Frenzy. Frenzy doesn't really do anything. I'm going to swap out in a Greater Rift or two for Ancient Spear to show you how that will work. But in theory, if you want to, you could take out either that and put in Avalanche and, put that in. You could use Ground Stomp. Ground Stomp, not really helpful. It will pull enemies towards you, but because of the way this Leapquake set is built, you will probably have a very hard time being able to keep enemies near you, because every time you leap around, you actually push enemies away from you. That's just how you can get a bit more damage out there. Things that you can put, I'm using Bane of the Trapped, because it allows me to slow down enemies, which is kind of cool because it also does a lot of passive damage that way. I'm using Bane of the Trap, Bane of the Stricken, Bane of the Powerful. You can swap for Earthlings. You could probably put a Pain Enhancer in here if you wanted to. I don't believe you could really run Simplicity Strength, because Simplicity Strength would mean you're using a regular attack, which you don't use on this particular armor set. So you really want to go Bane of the Stricken, Bane of the Trap, Bane of the Powerful, Bane of the Stricken for the time being. Then as you level up the gem, what you'll do is, when you see that Bane of the Powerful is not working anymore, you use Bane of the Stricken, Bane of the Trap, and Goaka Swiftness. The sooner you can put the Goaka Swiftness in, the more it is to your benefit, as you'll be able to get more cooldown. One of the problems in particular with Leapquake Barbarian, it has been buffed in this particular season, but it has also been given significant nerfs as well, is the fact that there are times when your cooldown is going to leave you a bit vulnerable, where you don't have any particular options for attacking. This is why you could use Ancient Spear. Ancient Spear is really good for pulling enemies towards you after you've casted your Leapquake, because your Leapquake, again, that's area of effect damage. That's a burning ground area. So being able to pull enemies into that burning ground actually will help your effectiveness go up significantly as well. This is a pretty good set. It is not considered by any standards S tier. Most people probably would not consider it even A tier. This is somewhere in a solid C to D tier. Compared to other Barbarian options you have, though, it is a pretty solid option. Barbarians, particularly S tier, is Whirlwind Barbarian. I do have a video up on my playlist there. So if you're curious for what will be the S tier for Season 22, I should say, look no further than the playlist for the Whirlwind Barbarian build, and you pretty much have a build that will take you through significantly high greater rifts with ease and with speed. Leapquake is really good for pushing, because it does pushing and mob control very well and very effective. So that's something for players who are a bit thing. If you don't want to do Spin to Win, because Spin to Win does get boring, this is a bit more fun of an armor to play. Immortal King's armor, I really don't recommend it. Some people like it, but they have to put in Furious Charge and everything. If you're going to play a Furious Charge build, you might as well play Riker, or Rakor, as it's called. And even then, that particular build is not as good as Whirlwind, because it can't clear things as fast. So I'm pretty much just going to be leveling up my Goaka Swiftness. I'm trying to get it as high as potentially possible. I will come back and revisit this video in the future with a updated build. The reason I decided to put it out now is I had the pieces, and it has been something that, believe it or not, has been requested quite a bit on social media, because people were complaining that I've only really ever covered Whirlwind Barbarian. And honestly, when it comes to the truth, yeah, I have pretty much only been covering it. So that was a 6-minute clear time. You're not going to get super fast clear times with Leapquake, because, like I said, Leapquake was kind of nerfed a little bit. When it comes to leaping around, if you hold the button in for a long time, you leap at a greater distance and for farther targets. If you want to just get targets that are near you, you tap in whatever button you've selected for your leap. Really, when it comes to this particular Greater Rift run, I think we're going to get pretty much a similar clear time. You know, it's probably going to be around the same, probably about 5 to 6 minutes. That's what, on average, an unoptimized Leapquake will do around Torment 13 difficulty. As I said before, you could run Mage Fist just to give a bit more power to your fire attacks, because pretty much everything that you're using in this Leapquake build is going to be a fire attack. One of the things that was actually buffed this season for Season 22 was Avalanche. It does a significant amount more damage. The only problem is Avalanche, outside of using Blade of the Tribes to get Warcry and Threatening Shout to just automatically cast that, really still suffers from the issue of cooldown. Earthquake is something that you're rarely ever going to use. That's probably just because you're always Leapquaking, which is causing Earthquakes anyway. But Earthquake, really, you have it on here in case you run into the Rift Guardian and your Leapquakes didn't take it down, and Threatening Shout, Avalanches, and Warcries didn't take it down. Then you would just cast a Earthquake. I actually did just cast the Earthquake there because I had a window of cooldown where I needed to put an area of effect window up, so I decided to cast Earthquake there. Problem with Earthquake takes an incredibly long time, even with the cooldown reduction it gets from the armor of the Earth, to be able to still do things. Force of the Earth is one of those sets where it's like, cooldown for leaping is really good. The cooldown for Warcry and Threatening Shout is really good. The cooldown for Earthquake, not so good. Ground Stomp's cooldown is pretty significant. It's just unfortunate that you really can't use Ground Stomp effectively because it really doesn't do too much to actually help this build out whatsoever. Which is why then you use things like Flavor of Time, which I'm using now, which allows for you to extend the duration of pylons. You get a bit more mileage out of that because being able to get the lightning out, where I could just leap around if I wanted to, or cast a Threatening Shout, will do a significant amount more damage. It gives you more mileage. It'll allow you to keep Massacre bonuses up significantly well. One of the problems that Leapquake in particular has is the fact that it's not great at sustaining Massacre bonuses, because leaping around, you can leap 3 times, and then there's a significant cooldown where, me looking right now, I'd say there's a cooldown without Goraka Swiftness where my leaps will probably, after I do 3 leaps, it takes about roughly 3, maybe that's a good 5 seconds before I get the next cooldown to leap again. So that is a significant window in which you have a bit of invulnerability, or you can't really do so much damage, which is why you can't get your Massacre bonuses up significantly. This is really that set where the Earthquake's Aftermath is going to be doing really most of your damage, not so much the actual initial leaping and the initial strikes that does, as you can see here. One of the good things is, though, like, you could just have a whole bunch of burning ground behind you and just walk away and keep going, and that's one way you can kind of try to sustain the Massacre bonuses, but most of the time, if you run into a leap pack such as here, you don't want to run away from them because you need to hit all 3 of those Leapquakes just to be able to take them out. As you start augmenting, and by augmenting I mean you have ancient legendary pieces of this particular armor set, and you start putting gems at level 60 and higher, you won't need to have to waste as many Leapquakes on a particular enemy. So that's something to look forward to in the future if that's a set that interests you to play it long term. Now, keep in mind, this is not the Season 22 starter build for the Barbarian. That is the Frenzy set, which is the Savages armor. That particular armor, I'm not particularly thrilled about. I will be featuring it sometime in Season 22. I just have the pieces, but they're not really optimal pieces to actually be able to do quite effective gameplay as of yet. So that's, as well, is going to be work in progress. But when I do have that particular set and I have the pieces all ready to go for that, I will definitely make sure to put out a video for that, because I know there are people who will probably be wanting to play that and see what that's about in Season 22. Honestly, I'm just going to give you my honest thoughts in regards to this. If you're playing Barbarian for Season 22 of Diablo and you're interested in getting a high leaderboard placement, and you're interested in probably being the best Barbarian that you could possibly be, you are going to want to go with the Whirlwind Barbarian build, because Whirlwind Barbarian is S tier. It gets you fast leaderboard placement. You can grind for jewels super fast. You can clear through things super fast. It's speedy. It's fast. It's efficient. It's powerful. It might be too powerful. I've always said that maybe that armor could benefit from some significant nerfs to it, but Blizzard has not done that. I guess because none of the rest of the Barbarian builds outside Leapquake are really that good at the moment. Maybe, hopefully, by Season 23 or 24 of Diablo, we'll see some buffs to those older Barbarian sets that don't do as well. This is going to be a Greater Rift 65. Then I'm going to maybe do 70, or I might just stay with the 65. I have switched in the Ancient Spear so that I could do more damage. I'm using the Ancient Spear Rage Flip, which is something that people have suggested. I'm going to try it out. Really, that just pushes enemies away, so it's kind of a zoning option. I actually would prefer to pull them in, so I would prefer the second Ruin for Ancient Spear with this set as opposed to the one I'm using currently. As you can see, again, this is not a speed build, but it does push very, very, very well. So, even unoptimized. Really, the Ancient Spear could push enemies behind you. This particular one, Rage Flip. So, I guess, really, if you wanted to, you set the Earthquakes and then Ancient Spear something to behind you where it is. But that is a bit more complicated and effectiveness. Oh, I was able to push some enemies there, though. So, there is some uses to it in practicality. Not as effective, though. Alright. Earthquake. See, this is kind of actually where the armor's doing a little bit better because there's a bit more mobs to deal with, so I'm able to pace myself a little bit better. Okay, I had a cooldown there, which is why I didn't Leapquake. One of the things you definitely also got to be careful with here is you don't want to waste your threatening shouts and your war cries too quickly, because if you do, then you have everything on cooldown and you can't really do any other damage outside of your Ancient Spears. 131 though kill is pretty good clear, or massacre bonus I should say here, guys. So it's still good. This is not, remember, we're not going for speed here, we're just going for pushing. So for pushing, one of the cool things, like you just saw here with Leapquake Barbarian, is like if you're at a staircase and there's a staircase below you or a floor below you and there's a whole bunch of mobs, you can actually jump down from where you are and get a significant drop on your enemies, which is pretty cool. As you can see here, the area of effect damage, which is all that molten lava that you see caused from the Leapquakes, is what took out most of the enemies there. That's pretty much what the armor does for all intents and purposes well. And that's pretty much what you kind of want to do, is be able to get, you know, good areas of effect going. As always, when it comes to armor sets, things that you should be focusing on in the beginning. On your helm, high hit crit ratio is probably something you definitely want to go for. 6.0% was pretty much a very good idea to get as soon as possible. On your gloves, you want high hit crit ratio. You want high hit crit rate damage. If you can get attack speed up as well, that will help. It's really hard to get all three properties on the gloves without a very lucky roll. So really you want high hit crit ratio and damage, and as high as you can get them for that will work in your benefit. Necklace, pretty much crit rit damage percentage. Your rings, same thing. Crit rit damage. If you can get it the higher, obviously the better, because you'll be doing more damage in general as a barbarian. So those are things to look out for. You want a Blade of the Tribes. You want a Blade of the Tribes that's going to be an Ancient Legendary piece, because Ancient Legendary piece will allow you to roll for a higher damage ratio on the weapon, which you want. I haven't seen a Blade of the Tribes at 40 damage. I have seen them in the 32 to 35 range. I don't know if it's possible to range a 40 on your rolls. That's something I'm going to have to look into. For those of you who are curious, the description to the armor for a set build for this is in the description. It may not be exactly the one I'm using here in the video, but it will it'll present a guide as to what you should be looking for and the ranges you should be doing as well. I'm going to be linking these guys to Icy Veins, which I think is a great resource for Diablo 3, because it's a great source for all Blizzard players in general for various different Blizzard games. And it's a very good community. People update their builds a lot often on there. You could use the D3 planner. I know people have been asking me to get a D3 planner and use it for the channel. As I've mentioned many times in the past, I'm not always on the internet. I'm not near a computer always. When I'm making the videos, sometimes I'm like near the computer to edit, but I'm not near the internet, and that becomes a problem. So that is why I don't really put D3 planners on my own particular armor builds up. I know something I can work on in the future. It's been kind of crazy because of the pandemic. Hope everybody is staying safe, healthy, wearing your mask, especially based on everything that's going on right now. Even more so important, but hopefully you're all doing safe, healthy, as well as your family members, and hopefully we'll all get through this. And you know, there's a promise of the vaccine, so hopefully the vaccines will be able to bring them out sooner than later, and we can all kind of get back to the original normal and not this new normal, because the new normal might be great for gaming, but even then it's been crazy times, to say the very least. You know, not as crazy as this Greater Rift, though, going on right now. So a lot of enemies. Like I said before, this is not a speed build. This is something that pushes. So keep that in mind. So we're not trying to get a fast position on leaderboard here. We're just trying to deal a lot of damage to be able to augment gems. Rift Guardian is near us. We're going to leap into him, then cast Earthquake. He even ran away from an Earthquake. Okay, shout for Avalanche, shout for Avalanche, and then the cumulative damage from the area effect took him out. So pretty much what you're going to want to do on a Guardian. All right, we're going to augment some gems here, and then I'm going to do one more Greater Rift for the day on the channel. I'm augmenting this particular gem. Again, I want to slot in Goraka Swiftness. Ideally, I want it at like level 50 before I would swap out my Bane of the Powerful in particular. And also, I would want to augment some of my armor slots. Obviously, you always want Ancient Legendaries because those are the only things that you can augment in terms of armor. If it's not Ancient Legendary piece, you can't augment a gem into the slot. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's see here. That was actually a pretty decent clear time. That was a, if I'm not mistaken, 5-minute clear time that was. All right. So this is a Greater Rift 70, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to show you how well this armor could do unoptimized on a Greater Rift 70. I believe it's 70 that I picked. Keep in mind, clear times may vary. It depends on the dungeon layout. It depends on if I run into a good amount of elite packs and I'm able to chain things. I did change the Ancient Spear. I went for the second ruin, which allows me to pull the enemies towards me as opposed to behind me. I feel this is a bit more effective because I can pull enemies into the lava. And pulling them into the lava will allow me to do more damage and pull more enemies in. So I think, ideally, that's the way you should go with Leapquake Barbarian in my personal experience. It's a bit more different than the usual videos I put out because this is me experimenting with a build that's not fully optimized live on the channel, which is pretty cool. If you like me doing stuff like this, I definitely will do it in the future on the channel. Just let me know in the comments. As always, I love to hear from my audience in the comments. If you have a particular build for Leapquake Barbarian that you prefer and you think I should probably be looking into, definitely leave that in the comments, and I will definitely look into things and try it out. I always try out suggestions. Sometimes I don't do it directly in the video. Sometimes I do it outside of the videos to see. But I definitely love hearing from the audience. As always, definitely thank you for all the support you've been giving the channel over the last 2 months. You know, when I started these Diablo videos, pretty much was not really sure what to expect, and I was very thankful that the community has accepted and embraced these videos and watched them in significant numbers. So definitely would like to hear from you guys as to what you like, what you don't like, things that you would like to see, things that you don't want to see that maybe I'm doing on here in particular already that I haven't noticed. Definitely like to hear from you guys, so definitely make sure to comment. If you do, also make sure to, if you aren't already, give the channel a like and subscribe. All subscriptions and likes are greatly appreciated because that helps the channel grow and it helps us in the YouTube algorithms. So if you can definitely help us out in that way, it is always greatly appreciated. I don't like to beg. That's why you rarely see me say, hey, give a like or subscribe, or I don't even put that in the beginning of my videos. I usually do that at the very end after all the content because I don't really particularly like that practice in particular. I feel like you're here for the content. You're not here for me to give you some type of marketing or advertising pitch, which is kind of why I always put it at the end of the videos and I don't put it in the beginning. You're here for the content. Let me give you the content. And then if you like the content after you've watched it or you disliked it or you have a thought about it, then give you the opportunity to give the ability to like and subscribe. That's how I like to do it. You know, maybe I'm doing it a little bit backwards compared to our content creators, but hey, that's just like how I like to roll, right? So All right, we took out that mob pretty good. You know, I'm feeling pretty good about the clear times on here. Probably gonna run into... I'd say this is gonna be probably another 5-minute clear time. So, on average, that's a pretty good average for this armor non-optimized right now to be hitting 5-minute clear times with a Leapquake. So, when we start switching in Goaka Swiftness for Bane of the Powerful, I think we'll get more cooldown, which will allow us to Leapquake more. And being able to Leapquake more frequently will allow us to get about 30 seconds shaved off these clear times. So then we'll be looking at 4-minute clear times between Greater Rift 60 to 65 range, which is very, very good. When you're farming for things in particular, you want fast clear times. Fast clear times allow you to do more Greater Rifts. More Greater Rifts means more augmenting your gems. More augmenting your gems means more augmenting your armor. And on top of that, even though you won't be getting as many ancient legendary drops as opposed to doing like a harder Greater Rift, it will allow you to farm for more pieces of armor quicker and more effectively. When you go to farming, it's not so much about the higher difficulty, it's more about how fast you can clear things and how many runs you can do roughly within an hour. So keep that in mind. When you're Diablo 3 farming, it's not about the difficulty. It's about how fast you can clear and how many you can clear in an hour. That's how you do effective farming for Diablo 3. So that's a tip for some of you probably newer players that might just be getting into it, or some of the players that are on the Nintendo Switch platform that have not been playing on the PC platform or things. Every video can be applied to any platform. That's the great thing about Diablo 3. Whether you play on the Nintendo Switch like me, or you play on the PS4, PS5, I guess, or Xbox Series X, or you play on the PC. All builds work exactly the same. There is absolutely no difference to any of them at all. The only difference is you're going to have more precise precision when you're using mouse and keyboard as opposed to using a controller with control stick and whatnot. That's really the only difference, but everything, all the information I provide you works for every platform. Felt it was very important to mention that. So we took out that Rift Guard with ease. I'm saying that's probably going to be about, I would say, I wasn't really timing this, but I'd say probably about 5 minutes, 20 seconds perhaps, maybe 5:15 roughly. So probably that's where we're going to come in. Overall, for a non-optimized armor that did 4 Greater Rift runs, we didn't get squashed. We didn't get killed at all in the armor, that's very, very good. That shows that this is on very good pacing to be a very strong armor as we continue through Season 22. Keep in mind, this is not the Season 22 starter set. That's the Savage armor set, which I'll feature sometime in the future. I'd say if you're going to play Barbarian, though, go Whirlwind. And if you happen to get the Leapquake pieces before the Whirlwind set, which is the waste set, probably focus on that. So, there you go. That's actually a 5-minute and 16 clear time. So that was pretty much right around the average. So every clear was around between 5 to 6 minutes. That's good for a non-augmented armor set. Perfect. When we start augmenting this, that will probably go down to 3 to 4 minute clear times. Remember, just particularly made this armor over the weekend because this was what you guys requested and you wanted to see how this particularly would function. So there you have it. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure to give this video a like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next Diablo 3.